Not long ago, when I was interviewing my friend Steve Cook, it was another one of those interviews that was more of a conversation really than an interview. And we were just talking about how often it seems that worship leaders have a tendency to just to grab a song off the radio and do it just like it is there. And Steve is a very talented arranger, and he could easily do that kind of thing. But he talked about not doing that. And I just really appreciated some of the things that he suggested of not having a cookie cutter approach to leading worship and how we do songs. So take a listen to what he has to say.
A question I would wonder is, nobody's saying you have to do cookie cutter worship. You know what I mean? Nobody's saying that. And I don't think anybody really means that, but that's sort of the message we can get. When we hear what's on the radio, everything sounds perfect. We see these, amazing videos of stages that are well lit and people that look perfect or near perfect, and they're playing their instruments amazing. I mean, everything about it is with excellence, and it seems like that tells us this is what we're supposed to do, but we're not. You know what I mean? That's an expression of their fruit, their ministry, but we need to be ourselves, be faithful to what God's called us to, and a cookie cutter approach isn't going to get that done, because you're right. You take a form of something else that the outside shell of what looks like success in this church, and I'm saying I'm going to do that in my church without really reflecting or looking at the heart, the people, what the Spirit of God is saying locally. Be influenced by what's going on locally, and look for variety and creativity even on a Sunday rather than everything sounding the same. Maybe you can be intentional about highlighting an instrument. If you have a cellist, maybe give them a place to play. You're not going to hear that in many radio songs. Or look for ways to highlight something that brings some dynamics to what's going on musically, and not be the cookie cutter approach. Yeah. Another example is Sojourn Church out of Louisville has released several recordings, but they have largely a blues influence in what they do. And so it just brings a different character to the songwriting and the production as well. But it's not typical what you would get on most big churches on a Sunday morning. So I think it's cool that way.
I really appreciate Steve's wisdom. So here's my takeaway from what I want you to get out of this. I want you to think about the instruments and people that God has given you in your congregation. That wasn't by accident that He gave you what you've got there. And so I'm going to encourage you to use those instruments to the best of your ability. Don't try to make the songs sound like they do just on the radio or whatever. Make them fit your congregation and the people that you have there that God has given you. So like he said, if you've got a cellist, if you've got a flute player, if you got a whatever, use those things in the context of the songs that you're doing and make that arrangement more yours in your congregation as opposed to just the cookie cutter approach.
Brought to you by MyWorshipLeadingCoach.com.
Helping you to be more fully equipped as a worship leader.